Story 1. Maybe alien spacecraft have running lights for the same reason bicycles or cars do on Earth. Not so they can see where they're going, but so others can see them. It seems a bit odd considering their technology would probably avoid collisions another way. But hey, maybe intergalactic traffic laws are strict. Story 2. How else would they get thousands of idiots to clog my Reddit feed with posts speculating whether it is a plane or not? All I want is pet videos and to see others' woodworking projects. Story 3. The only logical answer is that these aliens are from thousands of years in our future, where the Federal Aviation Administration rules the intergalactic sector with an iron fist. They have come back to 2024, New Jersey, to stop John from being born. Story 4. The Federal Aviation Administration requires all aircraft, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial, to comply with regulations. I mean, have you ever spoken with a Federal Aviation Administration investigator? They're scary. Story 5. I go to Colombia, I follow Colombian laws. Zargrek Prime from the Epsilon Eridani system comes to America. He follows Federal Aviation Administration guidelines. It's just the right thing to do. Story 6. Every time there's a UFO or Chinese spy balloon that the government starts to investigate, there's something controversial going on in Congress. It's almost as if we're supposed to look closely at one hand while the other does the trick. Story 7. Intergalactic Spacecraft Safety Administration, ESA. Spacecraft that are wider than 80 inches are required to have running clearance lights on the front and back, which are essentially running lights that indicate the craft's width and are mandatory for visibility. This applies to most large commercial spacecraft and some large surveillance spacecraft depending on their width. These lights are primarily to alert other aliens about the spacecraft's size, especially when overtaking or merging with other spacecraft. Story 8. They are not lights per se. What we are seeing is the result of their fuel exhaust chemically reacting with our atmosphere, which results in flashes of light. Story 9. Why would we assume the function of the lights? Could be anything. It might be essential to keep the level stable in the flux capacitor, for all we know or speculate. Story 10. I would assume the aliens building them didn't just spontaneously build their first flying craft as an interstellar traveling device, and they would need to be able to see their ships to avoid crashing into them the same way we do. But I think the lights from an alien spacecraft are typically thought to be from their propulsion or power systems. Story 11. Yeah, we could hover over your cities with a black spaceship covered in stealth material that would confound your primitive radar. But truth be told, our species are attention seekers. Now that you all have a multi-megapixel digital camera in your pocket, your need to take a picture of everything and our need to be the center of attention collided like two absurdly attractive actors in a meet cute, like in one of your movies. So we put some spotlights on our impossibly stealthy ships. Can you blame us? Story 12. It also begs the question, why would they need lights at all? Our military has cameras that can read a car's license plate from a satellite in space, plus they have night vision. Alien spacecraft would be by definition capable of a much higher level of technology than anything we have here on Earth. If we see them, it's because they want to be seen. So then, the question is, ever since World War II, why have unidentified flying object sightings slowly increased every year, and what are they building to? Perhaps a big reveal, and they want to avoid widespread panic? Story 13. Simple, they saw it in an old science fiction movie, sometimes known as the historical documents, and thought that's what the spacecraft are supposed to have. Please don't tell the Thermians the truth. Story 14. To test if the local life forms are drawn to the lights to attack them, which is valuable information to see what problems aliens will run into if they try to colonize an area. Story 15. No idea what these drones are and if they're ours, an enemies, or extraterrestrial, but I see few actually answering this question and most making jokes. If these are indeed aliens, I think the lights are actually camouflage. Look at the thousands of people saying, these can't be aliens. They have Federal Aviation Administration compliant lights. These people would not be able to dismiss the sightings as fake as easily if they looked alien to us. Because they have similar shapes and lights to our vehicles, it's easy to dismiss them as just planes. You have to admit that this is effectively camouflaging them. Story 16. We don't appreciate common sense questions around here, partner. We prefer trends about widespread technology that everyone can order from Amazon cheaply, strap a few Christmas lights on, and then fly them Film them, preferably a little blurry or out of focus or far away, and post on the internet for karma and attention to generate buzz around a made-up mystery. Story 17. On their planet, their system is as corrupt as ours is, and the politicians there are paid off by the people that make the running lights, so therefore running lights are mandated on spacecraft. Story 18. Pretending as not to alarm us. It didn't work. And they are scanners looking for energon cubes. Or we see that because our brains are recoiling in horror. Has anyone in here gazed upon these flyers while on psychedelics? Story 19. It wouldn't. There are 3 things going on in the sky back east. Real drones and planes are flying around. Black operations technology, drones, and planes are flying around. Them. Story 20. This was the big thing that stood out to me as far as these crafts have gone. The only way I have been able to cope is to blend in with human craft. Story 21. First off, there is no compelling evidence that aliens exist. So, if you encounter an unknown thing or event, it is not logical for people to jump to the conclusion that it is something that doesn't exist. You might as well say they are angels or leprechauns. Some people have lots of drones, and they are trolling us. Story 22. It's an interesting question, and one plausible hypothesis ties the visible external lights of unidentified flying objects to their propulsion systems and the physics of electromagnetic radiation. If we assume these crafts utilize some form of advanced propulsion system that manipulates electromagnetic fields, a common theory in unidentified flying object lore, the visible light could be a byproduct of that process. Electromagnetic radiation spans a broad spectrum, from radio waves to gamma rays, but our eyes are only capable of perceiving a tiny slice of this spectrum, visible light. Imagine their propulsion system works by generating intense electromagnetic fields to manipulate gravity or spacetime, concepts not entirely outside theoretical physics, like in Alcubierre warp drives. These fields could excite surrounding particles in the atmosphere, causing them to emit photons in the visible range, a phenomenon similar to Cherenkov radiation or plasma discharges. The colors or patterns of these lights might correspond to the energy levels or configurations of the fields being used. In this scenario, the lights aren't intentional signal markers but rather incidental emissions resulting from the underlying physics. To us, they look like glowing orbs or flashing patterns, but they could be a natural outcome of interacting with our atmosphere or simply a side effect of the energy being expended to stay aloft or maneuver. Alternatively, the lights could serve another functional purpose, like providing diagnostic feedback to the operators or even interacting with the surrounding environment in ways we don't yet understand. While we perceive them as lights, they might be functioning across the electromagnetic spectrum in ways beyond human comprehension. In short, the lights might not be designed for visibility at all. They're just the parts of their propulsion or energy systems that leak into the range we can see. Story 23. Because even extraterrestrials understand the importance of not being rude in space. What would it say about their civilization if they showed up as blinking, unidentified flying objects with no etiquette? Those running lights are just intergalactic turn signals, reminding us that even among the stars, decency still matters. Story 24. Aliens need to see where they are going just as much as humans. It is not inconceivable a spaceship would have headlights in order to make planetary landings at night. Probably not the case given their technology would be totally, well, alien to us. But it is definitely likely they would have some sort of light emission from their normal systems, unless their senses work completely differently. Story 25. So they can be seen. Assuming that alien spacecraft have visited Earth recently, a lot of people seem to have seen them. I'm guessing that if they can master interstellar travel, they could also make their craft undetectable. So if they have running lights, we should assume it's because they want us to see them, or they evolved on a planet with a surface temperature too hot for life, but with massive underground aquifers filled with volcanic vents teeming with complex life but absolutely no light whatsoever. Eyes don't exist on that planet. Story 26. Aliens are required to follow all United States air laws. Just like if the Chinese were sending secret drones from the ocean, they would make them as slow and bright as possible. I also read on Facebook today that it's somehow related to the Democrats trying to maintain power. Story 27. The stock rationalization will be to mimic aircraft on Earth. Which begs the question, if they have the mind-bending technology to perform interstellar travel, why would they even need fake landing lights? They would easily be able to manage stealth technology. We almost have the technology for this ourselves. The real answer, of course, is that people are mistaking planes for alien spacecraft. To cite a recent example, the Chilean military and scientists were stumped for 2 years with one sighting, but it only took a few days for someone from the internet to figure out which flight it was. Story 28. The State Route 71 is such an impressive plane that many mistook its maneuver using gravity to reach top speed as alien. Unidentified flying objects were originally a military program to watch for Russian aircraft. Sometimes science fiction is just science. Story 29. If they wanted to be seen, they would just land in a major city. But they do not want to be seen, so why are they flying at night with all their lights on? Story 30. They want to appear like they are not aliens by having lights. They want us to think that if they meant to harm us, they wouldn't have any lights. They're just waiting until we stop watching them, and then they will attack. Story 31. Some theories and supposed leaks on unidentified aerial phenomena align with the idea that they use a method of moving their craft which by its nature produces a ton of light when it's in operation in an atmosphere. Other than that, having super lights would be useful for communication in space because they might find themselves in a place with too much interference for radio communication to work. Story 32. Spacecraft are technically cars. Obviously, each light represents where they are going, like ours if going left or right, but theirs is like a really detailed compass so they can signal other spacecraft that they're going southeast or northwest. Story 33. This is what I think people are confused about. The New Jersey drone situation is misunderstood. The drones with standard formation lights are military. The orbs floating around are supposedly what these drones are investigating, whether it be because having manned craft is potentially dangerous or whatever. I am not saying I believe any of this yet, but I am saying what I think is reasonable. Story 34. Why do we have this inability to picture aliens as anything other than a singular entity? The fact that there would most likely be hundreds of billions of them, spread across multiple planets, is just too much to consider. Why does the Starship have running lights? Why does every single spaceship we design in real life have them? Sometimes the answer is as simple as it looks cooler. They would have sensors that preclude the need for warning lights, of course, but so do autonomous cars, yet we equip them with standard lights for some reason. The fact is, just because your ship or car can avoid hitting other objects doesn't mean that every ship out there does, and you'd want to have some visual way of alerting them to your presence. The mothership may be all dark and foreboding, with no need for external lights, but landing craft would have them for a myriad of reasons. I imagine alien spaceports are rather crowded places after all. Beyond that, we'd have absolutely zero clue about what technology they use. For all we know, their propulsion system requires external lights to stimulate photon disruption, etc. Do I think these drones are unidentified flying objects? No, but the inclusion of lights doesn't automatically make it impossible. Story 35. They saw close encounters of the third kind when it was released to deep space, and they think we communicate via lights. They are up there flashing their lights at us, and we're just ignoring them. Story 36. Anything traveling through space is going to be traveling in such a way that nobody would see it coming, and using visual references to track a vehicle going thousands of miles an hour, and maybe even hundreds of thousands of miles an hour would be absolutely pointless. Alien spaceships would not have running lights. That's how we know there are no aliens. Airplanes have running lights. Is an airplane stupid? Story 37. Mimicry or for Federal Aviation Administration / Civil Aviation Authority compliance. Occam's razor could come in handy. Which is more likely, that aliens are here and are pretending to be Federal Aviation Administration / Civil Aviation Authority compliant planes, or that these are just regular Earthbound planes or drones being mistaken for unidentified aerial phenomena or unidentified flying objects. Story 38. Here's my take on this. Adult aliens do use stealth to look in and observe. What we're seeing is the equivalent of alien teenagers that find it fun to troll the humans and watch them freak out. Just to make sure, I just came up with that one as a joke on a friend who was quite gullible one day. I let him off the hook a couple of hours later. Story 39. Or to reveal themselves at all. Honestly, the idiots that are calling these drones alien spacecraft have spent far too much time watching Star Trek. Story 40. Because the unimaginative human brain cannot think up anything that is not based on something that already exists. Why would an alien need a spaceship in the first place or lights? Story 41. A chief executive officer from a military drone maker says the drones are likely searching for a dirty bomb. That's why the government doesn't want people shooting them down, because they are looking for a warhead that disappeared from Ukraine. Just as likely as Iran or China. I'm hoping the drones are interdimensional beings coming here to save the Earth from humans. I am pretty sure the government knows exactly what they are and won't say to prevent more massive panic. No heat signature and the ability to disappear sounds more like cover than reality.